I'm succeeding. I don't know how, but I am succeeding wonderfully. I don't know, buddy. I think that maybe you ought to show some contrition. I'm not sitting there staring at it like a lech. You are full of poo. What the fuck? It's just something pops up and it jiggles. I know, right? You are going to get fucked up. Huh? Why? Why the hell not? Because I'm the guy that says a lot of shit. America! Fuck yeah! He's a piece of shit. It's like the fucking universe is saying, Brett, now's the fucking time. Shit, I've got a victim that I have never reached out to, tried to apologize to. When I was 15, I assaulted a woman on an elevator. I've never forgotten it. I would like to just apologize for what I did to you and your family. Brett Johnson, former United States most wanted cybercriminal, now good guy and host of the Brett Johnson Show. We're calling today's episode Making Amends. Now, before we get started on that, here's the thing. For those who don't know, Bretty likes to bitch, moan, and complain a whole shit ton. So we're going to add a segment. We're going to try a segment out called Bretty's Bitch, Moaning, and Complaining. Maybe we'll just have this once a month. Maybe it will fall on its face and we won't have it anymore. I mean, I don't put on this stupid hat for nothing. I wear this for you guys. Without further ado, let's bitch, moan, and complain about some stuff. So I recently went back to Austin, Texas. No, dumbass Bretty did not drive this time. Dumbass Bretty took the plane. So I went to be on Robert Hanson's R Snake show. Absolutely fantastic show. The guy is great. He really is. Anyway, what I'm not bitching about that. I'll talk more about Robert Hanson in just a few minutes. What I'm bitching about is I got off the plane. I went up to get my rental car at the dollar counter because I booked through Expedia. And when I booked through Expedia, I sorted for the cheapest ride I could possibly find. So I found one that's like $35 a day. I'm like, shit, yeah, I'll take that. I walk up to the rental counter. Already paid for the damn thing. Already signed my little contract online. Did all that stuff. The guy behind the counter, he's pulling up my information. Finally, he pauses. And I mean, it's a loud pause that he takes. He's like, sir, could you take a moment to read over your rental contract? Don't think I need to read it. I've never read one yet, not had any problems that I can tell. Although, now that being said, when I was in Hawaii, I did rent a vehicle and I took there's this long, I forgot the name of the road. It's this long ass road along one of the islands. That's the road to Lahaina. That's what it is. So anyway, I took this drive and I didn't know that you're not supposed to take rental cars throughout the entire 6-hour drive. But dumbass Bretty certainly did. I found out that the reason you're not supposed to take rental cars is there are many roads, many pathways along that road, which are kind of fucked up. Needless to say, the rental vehicle got a little damaged. Now, I did not want to report that. So what I did is I took the rental car back and kind of looked around me when I parked and I was like, everything looks okay to me, and left the damn thing there. And I made out all right. Now, am I telling the truth about that? Let's not say, but let's carry on with today's story. Anyway, I'm at the dollar counter. The guy says, read your rental contract. I'm like, dude, I don't need to read it. I just want the vehicle. He's like, you might want to read over your rental contract. And he looks at me very pointedly. So I'm like, okay. So I pull up the phone, reading through the rental contract. EV. I know, right? And I was like, I didn't want an EV. He's like, no one wants an EV. So I'm like, okay. So then he looks at me again. He's like, keep reading. Keep reading? By this point, I am intrigued and more than a little pissed off. So I keep reading. No air conditioning? What the fuck? No air conditioning. No air conditioning. What kind of car these days doesn't have air conditioning? And he looks at me. He's like, this is not a Tesla. I want you to understand that. I don't want the damn thing regardless if it is a Tesla. Well, it's not a Tesla. This is the entry-level electric vehicle. Okay. Educate me. Well, for example, it doesn't charge very quickly. How quickly does it charge? Well, you have to charge it for an hour for it to go 35 miles. And shit, that doesn't sound good. And he keeps telling me this stuff. He's like, it's not a comfortable vehicle at all. And I was like, well, let's give me something else. So he did. He gave me a Volkswagen Taos, T-A-O-S. Now, here's the thing. I have rented Volkswagens before, and every single Volkswagen that I have rented, I have hated with a passion. And I'll tell you what, I've got a theory. My theory is that the Nazis are still building the damn things just to fuck with me. Anyway, I wanted to bitch about that. That's not the only thing I'm bitching about today. You know, when I buy a car, like I've got 2 Acuras out there, and I'm proud. I like my Acuras. When I buy a vehicle, I look at the trunk, and I immediately think to myself, how many bodies can I fit in that trunk? Like that TLX out there, I can fit 2 bodies out there. 3, if you break some appendages and kind of bend them in and kind of, shove them in there like they're not fucking supposed to go. I had a Lincoln. My stepson had a Lincoln. It's like a 2007, 2008. That damn town car, I kid you not, you could fit at least 4 adult bodies in there. No doubt. So these are the types of things that I look at. And when like for electric vehicles, for example, I keep thinking to myself, not that I plan on being in a car chase, but I keep thinking to myself, if I were to get in some sort of police chase, I really would not want an electric vehicle. I want something that's gasoline powered because that is reliable. I don't have to worry about that. If I'm going up a hill, I can make it up the hill with the gas, and I can find a gas station to regas if I need to. Just getting it out there. Just want people to know that. Now, what I wanted to really bitch about today, Justin Trudeau. He's got some proposition like Proposition 63, some bullshit like that, where they are changing some of the punishments for hate speech, for potential thought crimes, things like that. So basically what it is that now in Canada, what they're planning on is if you've made some sort of hate speech, instead of being sentenced to a maximum of 2 years, you can be sentenced up to 5 years in prison just for speaking something hate-filled. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I speak a lot of hate-filled content, a lot. No, not about specific races. I hate everyone, especially political parties. That's just me. But anyway, they're going to throw people in jail for this. And it carries up to life in prison for advocating genocide. Now, here's the thing. I don't advocate genocide. I think that a lot of people would be much better off if the Lord God called them home quickly. I don't advocate any particular people being murdered or genocide. I'm against that. But that being said, how far does that rule go? If you look at the Israeli-Palestine conflict, a lot of people who support Israel, the opposing side who support the Palestinians, say that those people are advocating for the genocide of the Palestinian people and vice versa. Are we to start locking up people just because someone says this is what they're thinking and this is what they may do? This goes into this whole thing that I mentioned a few weeks ago about thought crimes. There is a difference between thinking those dark damn thoughts, which I do every single day, and following through on those. There's a difference between spouting off at the mouth and actually getting in there and doing something violent or doing something hate-filled. If we are going to start imprisoning people for them saying things that we don't like, there is something horribly, horribly wrong with this country and with Canada. Well, I mean, shit, I know something's wrong with Canada. Justin Trudeau's up there. That's not all I was going to bitch about today. Last night on LinkedIn, Tim McGinnis, he reached out to me. He's the head of SCARS. It's a nonprofit that deals with relationship scam victims. All right. So he reaches out to me, and Tim's a friend of mine. And he sends me a message. And he says, Brett, you are no longer a felon. And I immediately look at that, and I was like, the shit you say, I know I'm a felon. But then I continue to read his message. And he says, the DOJ, that's the Department of Justice, bigwigs, the DOJ released an internal memo that says that people like you, meaning me, people like you, should not be referred to as felons anymore. They should be referred to as justice-involved persons or individuals. JIPs, JIPs, I guess is what they are. Here's the thing. I pled guilty. My initial charges, I think it was like 77, 70 or 78 felony charges against me. It got so bad. I was arrested February 8th of 2005. When you're in a county jail and you get a new charge, what they do is they call your ass over the microphone, you go up to the front desk, and then they escort you to the front of the jail where they process you again. Take your fingerprints, all this other bullshit. My charges, when I was first arrested, I was arrested under like 3 or 4 charges. Over the next week, another 70 rolled in. So I was fingerprinted over the space of about 8 or 9 days, 70 fucking times. I know that I am a criminal. I told Brian, right as we were beginning this, it's only recently that I have embraced that label as a criminal. Okay? I have historically not been liked, I've not liked being called a criminal. I have referred to myself as a reformed criminal. I've got to admit, though, that didn't really sit right with me either because it's not really right. I view myself as a criminal who chooses not to break the law. And that is a very important distinction. All right? Yes, I've got that shit in me, but I'm choosing every single day to be the meek Bretty, to be the humble Bretty, and not to engage in crime. And you know what? I'm succeeding. I don't know how, but I am succeeding wonderfully. For the DOJ to come out and say that, Bretty, we know, and they're basically talking to me, Bretty, we know that you only recently decided that you would be a criminal and admit to it. But we don't like those words. Instead, we're going to refer to you as a justice-involved person. What do you think about that? Well, you know what I think about that? I think that you are full of poo. I'm a felon, a former felon. I am a criminal who does not commit crime. But I use my criminal expertise to protect businesses and consumers from that type of person that I used to be. This is not the first time we've seen bullshit like this. It's not. I'm on LinkedIn all the time. And one of the things that I see on LinkedIn, for those who don't know, LinkedIn is like the Facebook of business. You can get on there and build your brand up, and everyone else who's building their brand up, we all salute each other and hidey-ho, and hopefully we make some money out of that. Turns out I do. On LinkedIn, because I talk about crime a lot. A lot of my colleagues talk about crime a lot. Well, there is a certain demographic of the colleagues that are there that calling us, meaning me, calling us criminals is not good enough. That term is too nice. We need to think of something else to call them. So about every 3 or 4 months, you'll see some post pop up on LinkedIn of some dipshit trying to rename a criminal something more derogatory than they already are. Let me tell you something. Criminal is derogatory enough. It is. We, meaning me and people like me, we know what we have done. We know that we are criminals, and we know that we're going to be that way. Hopefully, we get some rehabilitation. Hopefully, say we don't, and I believe that I'm going through rehabilitation. I'm deeply sorry for the crimes that I committed. I try to help victims every single day. I try to be a better person every single day. Now, that being said, that does not mean that every former criminal is like that. I had a discussion today with a guy online, and I told him, I was like, look, one of the things that I have found in talking to all these former criminals is that a whole shit ton of them do not care about their crimes. They're not really sorry about it. Now, does that mean they're going to go back and commit crime? No. They've got a nice job these days. They've turned their lives around, but they're not really sorry for the crimes that they've committed. My thought about that? I don't know, buddy. I think that maybe you ought to show some contrition. The real thing I wanted to bitch about today, it's like we're building up into a crescendo. Congress. You ever notice that pro is the opposite of con, so progress must be the opposite of Congress? Just saying. Anyway, that's an old, the guy who hit the watermelons joke. He used to use that line. Gallagher. That's an old Gallagher joke. Okay, so Congress, in their infinite wisdom today, the House of Representatives, decided that they were going to pass legislation against my favorite app. What is my favorite app, Brian?
Things that jiggle.
Things that jiggle, also known as TikTok. They passed this. Now, here's the thing. The reason that they're doing this is they are saying that, and it is true, but I'm not going to say it's a lie. It is true that any Chinese company has to give over any data that the Chinese government requests. That's the law, period. If you don't do that, you're going to end up like that guy who owned Alibaba, and he decided he was going to run his mouth against the Chinese government. Went from being a billionaire, now he's teaching school someplace in some unknown district somewhere. Chinese companies have to turn over data at the request of the Chinese government, period. TikTok is a Chinese company. It's owned by ByteDance. So they have to turn over that data. As a matter of fact, we have seen time and time and time and time again, we have seen instances of TikTok fucking around. For example, at one point they had access to a person's clipboard on their phone. Not allowed to do that. By God, they did it anyway. Just recently, they were asking for Apple passwords. They have been known to spy on journalists. They have not been as pure and white as the driven snow. They have been a little fucked up. So the legislation, I understand that. But where, oh where, am I going to get my jiggly content? Because I got to tell you, the Facebook Reels algorithm sucks. It does. I'm on Facebook Reels. I'm on the YouTube Shorts, whatever the shit that is. That sucks too. I'm on that. And I'm going to tell you that those algorithms do not show me the stuff that my unconscious desires would like to see. And I'm not a pervert. I am not. I'm flipping through the talk. I call it the talk because it's like a friend of mine. I'm flipping through the talk and something will show up. All right. I'm not sitting there staring at it like a lech. It's just something pops up and it jiggles and I stop just for a second. Well, that algorithm is so good that me staying on that one page for just a nanosecond too long means that they start feeding me even more of the jiggly content. And I pause at some of this jiggly content because I'm like, damn, I didn't know you could do that. When you do that, it feeds you even more of that type of content. Facebook Reels and the YouTube Shorts, they don't do that. They don't. They're about to take away this content, and I don't like that. Here's what I'm really bitching about, though. What I'm really bitching about is that, yes, TikTok hands over data to the Chinese government. That is a fact. That's been exposed time and time again. I don't really give a damn what the CEO of TikTok has to say about it because his ass is going to get up there and say whatever the Chinese government wants his ass to say. The issue is that we as American people, our data has been used by more than just TikTok. How do you think Facebook makes its money? How do you think LinkedIn makes its money? Twitter X. Okay, you can't use Twitter X because, let's be honest, Elon continues to drive that dog in the dirt. But these other platforms that are profitable, they are profitable because of our data. That's how they make money. As a matter of fact, when Zuckerberg first starts out Facebook, he refers to, and you can look this quote up on Google, he refers to Facebook customers as fucking idiots because they're going to give him the data for free just for them to be on the platform, because the data is what's important. It goes a little bit beyond that, though. It also turns out that these platforms have been extremely good about either sharing or selling data to multiple U.S. government agencies. Now, I get it, and I'm on Team USA. As a matter of fact, I may watch Team America tonight, Durka Durka. I like... America, fuck yeah, out to save the motherfucking day, yeah. It's a great film. Probably watch that tonight because I am that patriotic. The issue, though, is that we, the American people, have not given Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, ByteDance over at TikTok, or any other social media platform, we've not given them permission to sell or give our data to the United States government. Now, do I think the government's targeting me or going to come and arrest me? Well, no, they've already done that. I think they're through targeting me. And I don't think that anyone in a government agency is worried about what type of porn someone watches. But we do have to start taking our privacy and our data seriously in the United States. It's more than just TikTok. We are being manipulated every single day with the data that we freely give to social media platforms and then ultimately to the government. And nobody seems to be doing a damn thing about it. That is this segment of Bretty bitch moans and complains about something. Okay, I need to preface this because, again, I'm doing a lot of bitching on this episode. United Healthcare was hit with a ransomware attack, $22 million attack. Before I comment on that, I want to reference Robert Hansen again. So I went to Austin last week. I flew. I did not drive because I'm not the, persistent fucking idiot. It comes in, intermittent flashes. Anyway, I'm talking to Robert. And we have a very good talk. The podcast lasted for about 3.5 hours, and I've got to go back for a part 2 in a couple of months. That being said, we were talking, and we got through several very beneficial things. The first is he's an investor with Arcos. Arcos is the bot mitigation company that I was chief criminal officer with last year. And he asked me, we were talking about it, and he's big on Arcos, and I like Arcos as well. And he was like, so what did you do for Arcos? And I was like, honestly, dude, I don't know. I was chief criminal officer. I trained people on, cybercrime dynamics, and I would go out and talk and all that. I said, but honestly, I don't think they really knew what to do with me. And Robert looks at me, he's like, that's probably a pretty common thing, isn't it? And I was like, dude, you have no idea. These companies, unless I'm going in and doing threat intel, which is what I basically do. Threat intel I'm outstanding with, but some of these companies, they want the cure of something, or they think that they can use me for something that I'm not down to be used for. Because, and this is something else that we talked about on the podcast, because I'm the guy that says a lot of shit. I do. I am not afraid to call out a company. And yes, this matters with this United Healthcare. I'll get to that in a second. I told Robert, though, I was like, look, man, I said, really, ideally, what I would like to do is be able to grow my shows, my speaking engagement. Plus, I'm going to be working on a security app. I would like to get it to the point where I am able to call out and say anything that I want to say about doing the right damn thing, calling out companies, calling out individuals, just do it without fear of consequence. And he looks at me and he was like, well, you do that already, don't you? And I was like, I do, but I got to be honest with you. I can't say every single thing that I would like to say. And he pauses and he looks at me. He's like, yeah, I can tell that about you. And I was like, yeah. I said, I would really like to get to that point. So he looks at me. He's like, well, Brett, why can't you do that now? And I'm like, I thought to myself, well, because I like to be paid to speak every now and then. He did make a good point. He was like, look, really, if you want to do it, just do it. Well, I am the guy that will just do it. Just watch my DMT episode if you don't believe that shit. Talking about United Healthcare. Here's the thing. United Healthcare is a shitty company. All right? I'm just going to say it. They're very good about denying things to the people who need treatments, medications, procedures, whatever. They're very good about that. And the reason I know that, my wife used to be a medical practice manager. I'm in Birmingham, which is now a medical town. Turns out after steel went belly up, they needed to do something, so now they're medical driven. So I know a lot about the medical industry. I know a lot about the different insurance providers. Kind of like through osmosis. I just kind of soak it up as it goes along. Blue Cross Blue Shield, which I'm happy to say are our providers, they do an outstanding job. I'm very happy with them. United Healthcare, shitty company. They like to deny things. They like to fight. They don't like to pay. If you're a doctor and you're trying to get something paid, they will jerk the doctor around almost like it's a religion. I say that because, no, I am not blaming the victim for being victimized. The victim in this case is United Healthcare. They were hit with a ransomware attack, charges of $22 million. All right. They were hit with this attack. What I'm saying is that if your company has an environment of chaos or distrust or just a quote unquote shitty type of environment, that will absolutely translate to how good your security is within your organization, both physical security and online security. Period. If you can't communicate with each other and your customers, if you've got everything so compartmentalized that one part doesn't know what the other part is doing, you are going to get fucked up. That's just a fact. So I wanted to mention that today because I don't think anybody's really paid attention to that. If a company is just an outstanding organization, and more often than not, companies truly are. If a company is just an outstanding organization, if they do every single thing they can for their customers, if their employees have an environment of being able to share and communicate with different departments, that is going to translate to a much safer, more secure, more hospitable, and happier environment overall. United Healthcare is like you're trying to get healthcare from the 9th layer of hell. It's just not going to happen. Nobody's happy with United Healthcare. Matter of fact, when I heard about it, I was kind of like, well, shit, could have seen that shit coming. They needed it. They're still around. Whether they've learned anything or not, I don't know. All right, on today's Art of Accountability segment, and it leads into the main meat of today's episode as well. It comes from the 12-step program. Now, when I was in prison, part of the RDAP, the Residential Drug Abuse Program, part of that was that you had to attend Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, those who know my story, you know, I don't use drugs. I drink like a bottle of champagne every 2 months. I recently just tried DMT because, why? Why the hell not? I had some gummies. I hate my fucking gummies. Hate the fucking gummies. I'm not a druggie. I'm not. I like to get drunk on champagne about once every 2 to 3 months. I'll take that bottle. I'll sit down. I'll throw a movie on. Just, that's a good bubbly high right there. When you're going through Alcoholics Anonymous, you go through this 12-step program, and steps 8 and 9, I'm going to read them right here, but I put them together for this Art of Accountability segment. Steps 8 and 9 say, make a list of all persons we have harmed and willing to make amends to them all. Make direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. This is a really, really important part of becoming a better person and a better human being. Most everyone has mistreated someone somewhere in their life. I have mistreated a whole shitload. I have victimized a lot of people. Part of recovery is knowing and realizing the damage that you have done, that I have done to others, and then trying to make amends to those people, apologize, recognize what happened, as long as doing so would not injure them more. That's something that it's easy to say. But to follow through and do that can sometimes be extremely difficult for the abuser, in this case me. Bear this whole Art of Accountability segment in mind as we're talking through the main episode. If you have brought harm to someone, if you are truly on the path of turning your life around and trying to be a better person, you cannot forget or dismiss those people that you have harmed in your past. It is your responsibility. It is my responsibility to try to make amends to those people that were harmed. So on today's episode of The Brett Johnson Show, we are talking about making amends. So again, I flew out to Austin, Texas. Robert Hansen, I was on the R Snake show. Robert Hansen is outstanding. He truly is. And for those who may not know how I operate, when I do a podcast, sometimes the podcast is a very fun podcast. Sometimes it's just me up there bullshitting and we'll talk cybercrime or some different types of fraud and we have a fun time. Sometimes it's not like that. For example, the Lex Friedman show was a very cathartic experience. I got to get everything out. Took 3 hours and 47 minutes, but I got to get everything out that I thought was important with my story. And we were able to discuss the entire arc of that. Now, there's a lot of stuff that's left out, but it's the most comprehensive telling of my story yet. And I was very pleased with that engagement. Now, there have been people that have, on the comment section, he's a piece of shit. And my response is I'm a former piece of shit. Not so much anymore. More people than not, though, many more, they had a very positive view of that engagement, of that podcast that I did. When I did Jordan Peterson, I went into that show with the idea that I was going to get me some therapy. The dude knows what he's talking about. The dude does not pull punches. By God, I need some therapy from this guy. And I got that. 2.5 hours, and it was a very good conversation. I walked away a better human being than when I entered the room. That's all you can ask for. With Robert Hansen, he asked me when I got there, have you watched any of my shows? He's like, you don't have to lie. And I was like, no, sir, I've not. I've been too fucking busy. He's like, that's all right. I don't watch them anyway. I was like, okay. I did not know what to expect with his show, and I was just going to go with whatever the feeling was on that. Now, Robert is a very insightful individual, extremely insightful. He's told me he hadn't watched the Lex Friedman one, but he had watched the Jordan Peterson one, and we had a very good conversation during that. It lasted over 3 hours. I'm going back for a part 2. One of the things that we ended up talking about is the subject of today's show. And I'm going to build into all of that. For those who don't know, when I was a child, and I don't know how else to approach this other than simply going through it again. I want to caution people that are listening to this right now. I am not trying to justify my actions. I'm not, okay? My actions are mine even at that point. I'm responsible for what happened. No one else is. When I was a child, me and my sister, we grew up in a very abusive family. My dad was the person who would let the abuse go on. My mom was the abuser, mentally, emotionally, verbally, could be physical as well. It got to the point, I've talked about this before, certainly in all the different podcasts I've done, but even on my show too. It got to the point, and I was very young, I was 7, 8, 9 years old, that I would catch, my mom and dad would be gone someplace, and I would piss on the carpet or piss in the house like an animal. I became a legal guy 2016, 2017, and I didn't start, I'd never told anybody that story until I started speaking for a living. And I was on stage at a cybersecurity conference, and I said that because I wanted people to, I think it's important for my rehabilitation and recovery, but also for anybody out there who may be going through the shit. I think it's important to say this stuff, to get it out, because it might make a difference. I know it makes a difference when I talk about it. And I've had people that have reached out to me, and it's made a difference to them as well. After that presentation where I mentioned that, I had a lady come up to me, and she was talking to me, and she told me that before she got to be a fraud analyst, that she used to deal with abused children, and that was not an uncommon thing, that kids did that was, at the end of the day, that was the only form of control that I had left. I can understand that. Well, it doesn't stop there. When I was 15, I assaulted a woman on an elevator. My dad, I was under the impression that I was going to go live with him. I called him up one day, and the dude's married. And needless to say, I'm not. And I walked into an elevator. A woman walked in there, and I assaulted her, beat her up. Okay. The disposition of that is I served, I was 6 months, and they didn't have a juvenile holding facility in Perry County. I was 6 months and may as well say in solitary confinement, at which point went to court. The judge recommended a psychological evaluation, which I went to that. That was like a 6-week evaluation. Went up to Louisville, Kentucky for that, and then was cut loose with the understanding that I was supposed to have counseling after that. Never had counseling because, hey, we're in Eastern Kentucky. That shit doesn't happen. I'm 54 now. I didn't mention that to anyone until I was 47, 48. Lived with it. Certainly the people in the county knew who the hell I was and what I had done, because it's a small county. Everyone knows everybody else. And yes, you are rightfully the pariah at that point in time. So I didn't mention it publicly until 2016, 2017. Shortly after I talked about urinating on the carpet, I went through this phase of I want to get everything out. And I'm still like that. I don't like to keep things hidden. I want everything out there. You know, whatever the fuck it is, say it. If somebody doesn't like me, you don't like me, but hey, at least I'm getting the stuff out that I think needs to get out. A few weeks ago, and here's the thing, we were talking about making amends, about recognizing the harm that has been caused to others and making amends for that harm to that person, as long as it doesn't damage the person or cause that person more grief, more pain at the end of the day. I get people from Eastern Kentucky, and these people are, I don't know them, but they reach out to me, they send me emails or messages or look up my phone number and try to call me and what have you, and they simply just want to say, thank you for being from Eastern Kentucky, for doing us right. And I get a lot of those messages like that. And not only from people that I don't know, but people that I used to go to school with, people that I used to know in the community, people that I haven't spoken to in 30 years. 30 years. will reach out to me on Facebook or something like that and connect, and they'll send me a message. Hey, I just wanted you to know that I've seen what you're doing, and we're damn proud of you. I have trouble taking compliments. I don't understand that. I don't, and part of the reason I don't understand that is that life of crime that I led, and the people that I brought harm to, including this lady in this elevator. I've never, while it took me 30 years to talk publicly about it, I've never forgotten it. And it's been with me every single day, as it should. The reason I'm talking about this today, it's like I am not a religious person. I'm not. I wish I were. I'm not. But I fully believe that right now, everything that I have done or that's been done to me has led to me being where I am now, and I'm exactly where I am supposed to be. It's like I've been on, I've veered off the path. There's been a path that I was supposed to be, and I've veered off the path that points to my life. And, now I'm on the path, and I'm like, this is the way things are supposed to be. Something has guided me or smacked me around to the point where I know I'm supposed to be here right now. A few weeks ago, my first cousin, Frances Everett, she's a counselor in Hazard, Kentucky. And she listens to all my shows, and she's very proud of me, very proud of me. And that makes, that matters to me, that somebody like her takes the time out, or somebody that I don't know takes the time out to say these kind of things and let me know that, hey, we're thinking of you, we're proud of it. It matters. I have trouble taking the compliment, but it matters. Frances is one of these people that I value deeply in my life. So she's telling me about how proud she is of me. And she's watched the Jordan Peterson episode. And we talk about the assault on the episode as well. I talk about it on all these major podcasts because I want people to know. All right. I don't want people to think that, hey, he was a good guy. No, I was a piece of shit. Former piece of shit. Frances is talking to me, and she was like, have you ever thought about reaching out to Vivian? Because that's the woman's name. And my initial reaction, I quoted the thing back to her. Hey, no, I hadn't really, because I don't want to cause more damage to others. That was my response. And she shot back, don't you think that should be up to the victim to decide whether it's okay for you to try to reach out and make amends? So here's the thing. I know when somebody says something truthful and when someone gives me good advice. But I also have that little streak in me that when somebody says something like that, it raises the hackles, and I'm like, fuck, I don't want to do that shit. Well, of course I didn't want to do that. And I told Frances, I will think about it. And she's like, hey, if you want to do this, she said, no pressure at all. If it's something that you want to do, let me know. I know the family. I can reach out and see if they might be open to you having a discussion with them. Now, that's a heavy, heavy, heavy thing to start considering, because I know that this has haunted me all of my life, and I have no doubt that my actions have not only hurt her, but hurt her entire family. That's a very heavy thing to want to sit down, or to even consider sitting down and having a conversation with your victim. And I knew I was supposed to do it. I did, but by God, that's a hard thing to do. So fast forward a couple of 3 weeks later, I get a lot of people that reach out to me because they've heard something on my show. They've seen me talk about either me victimizing someone or the abuse that I suffered as a child. They see me talking about that and trying to work through that, and it resonates with them. And they want to email me. They want to talk to me on the phone. They want to contact, because I guess they see somebody who's been through the shit. And by God, if somebody like me can turn around my life, maybe they can too. I had a guy actually wrote me that yesterday. So what happens is 2-3 weeks after I talked to Francis, gentleman reaches out to me, and he was like, look, he said, he watched all the episodes. I was like, okay, I'm so sorry you watched all the episodes. Believe you me, back in the day, they weren't as nicely edited as they are now. Brian can tell you that. So, say the ding. So he says, can you talk? Do you mind talking to me on the phone just for a quick 10-minute phone call? And I'm like, sure, dude, we'll do that. The phone call is like 70, 80 minutes long. And he's telling me about the shit that he's been through. And it's not like I can fix anything, but I'm just listening. And sometimes that's all it takes, is just somebody to listen. That's all you need sometimes. So I'm more than happy to listen to this gentleman tell me about the abuse of his family, the environment he grew up in, how he lost his wife. I mean, just a whole history of just being downtrodden and abused and mistreated. And you know what? He's still chugging along. And I'm telling the guy that. I'm like, damn, dude, you know, you're talking about all these negative things, but you're okay. You've got a child. You're raising your son to the best of your ability. You are aware of what you need to do in order to overcome things. You're moving toward that. Yes, you're going to have setbacks. So we're listening and talking. I'm like, dude, you're doing everything you need to do. Just keep on trucking. I could call this guy a friend. For somebody that doesn't have friends. About a week and a half after that, it's on a Sunday, and he texts me, can I ask you a question? And I'm like, absolutely, ask. And he's like, no, I really want to be able to ask this over the phone. I'm like, okay. So I call him up, and I'm not telling the guy's name because, hey, it's nobody's business. But I call him up, and he tells me, I just reached out to the person who drugged me and raped me violently when I was 16. That is something. And he was wanting my advice on this. And he says, you know, and he's telling me this story. And here's where this pertains to me as well. He's telling me the story of this guy who now has turned his life around. He runs a very successful company. He's by all accounts, he's very remorseful for his previous life. He's trying to do things right. He's trying to make these amends. So he contacts this guy who raped him. And it turns out that this guy who victimized my friend has never tried to reach out to him, to apologize, to make amends, to just, you know, try to make things right. And this guy's telling me this on the phone. And while he's telling me this, I got to tell you, it's hitting me, because I'm sitting there going, shit, I've got a victim that I have never reached out to, tried to apologize to, and try to make those amends. And the reason why, and I understand, you know, no, I'm not a rapist, but I understand this mindset from this guy, because I've had that mindset too of, hey, you know, I'm busting my ass trying to be a better person. But at the same time, this is that dark corner that I simply do not want to ever venture toward. But at the end of the day, if you're going to be a better person, if you're actually serious about doing the right goddamn thing, this is something that must be done. So my friend on the phone is telling me, and he's talking to the guy, and he tells the guy, hey, you've never reached out, you've never done this. And the guy's responding, you're right, I've not done that. I apologize. And they have according to him, they have a very good, deep conversation. To which I tell him, hey, and the perpetrator wants him to go to some counseling sessions, with a counselor there and everything else. And which I tell my friend, I'm like, hey, understand, I don't give a shit about this guy. I do care about you, and you need closure. Again, smacking my ass in the face the entire time because I'm talking to a victim and telling them, hey, it doesn't matter what that perpetrator's doing. He did not reach out to you. I did not reach out to my victim. He did not reach out to you. He did not try to make amends whatsoever. You've reached out to him. Now he's wanting to have that conversation. I don't give a fuck what he's thinking. What I do care about is, are you okay? And are you going to be able to get the closure that you need? Because that, at the end of the day, is the only thing that matters. So we have that talk. And we talk again for an hour and a half on the phone. And I think that I gave him some very good advice. Watch out for you. You're the victim. You didn't do anything wrong. It's all him. And if you don't get closure, then by God, you shouldn't even be communicating with the guy. That's what I said. I hung up the phone, and by God, that's hitting me in the face because I understand that every single thing that I told him actually also applies to yours truly, who has not done the right goddamn thing by trying to reach out, make the apologies. So at that point, this is like 3 or 4 days before I'm supposed to go to Austin to talk to Robert Hansen. So I've decided at this point, yeah, we need to do something on this. I get to Robert Hansen's house, and we start talking about this, and you can watch it on the show, and I think it's going to be out like next week. But we start talking about this, and it pops up again. So it's like, it really, and I don't know what to think about a higher power. I don't. But it's like the fucking universe is saying, Brett, now's the fucking time. It's right now is when you're supposed to be doing this. So Robert's talking. I'm telling him, I'm like, hey, man, I've got to reach out. I know I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm going to be doing this. And Robert says, look, before you do that, understand that if you don't prepare for it, it's not going to go the way that you want it to go. So what he suggested, and he suggested that I write the apology down first so that I get it out. And as soon as he said it, I was like, yeah, that's exactly that's what they did in RDAP. If you put things on paper, and whether you ever do anything about it or not, at least you have processed it at that point just by getting it out, by verbalizing it and putting it on something concrete. And he's like, do that first. And then while you're doing that, you can have Francis reach out and see about maybe having that conversation, being able to apologize. I don't think you can apologize for that, but being able to maybe give some closure, because I am the guy who did this, and it's the victim. And again, I don't know. Maybe they've already I don't know. But as Francis says, shouldn't it be up to the victim to decide whether to accept that or not? And I think at the end of the day, the answer is absolutely yes. This is not a part of me looks forward to it. Getting it out. Part of me is absolutely scared to death. scared to death. But I'm reminded of that saying, what would you do if you're not scared? So you've got to be able to set that fear aside, that fear of the unknown, of being judged, of someone not accepting, your attempt to make amends. You've got to be able to set that aside to do the right goddamn thing. So I wanted to just mention that to people today. I've not written the letter yet. I'm going to, the apology. I'm going to do that. Frances, she's going to reach out and see if they would be open to a conversation, to Zoom, in person, what have you, phone. I don't really care. Whatever I can get. Or if they're not, I understand that too. But I think the offer needs to come of, hey, I would like to just apologize for what I did to you and your family. I am sorry about that. I truly am. So that's what I wanted to talk about today, was that. And I know that people are out there. I know this. Nobody's got my history. Some people have a worse history. But if you've brought harm to someone, and you're now in that phase of your life where it matters, where the people that you have harmed, you can't forgive yourself for that. And I don't. But if you're in that situation, I really fully believe that it's of the utmost importance that you attempt to make amends with those people. I say make amends. I don't think you can make amends, but I do think that you can recognize the damage that you have caused, the harm that you have brought, the abuse that you have wreaked upon someone's life. I think you can recognize that. And you can attempt to reach out and say, hey, I am so sorry for what has happened. And at that point, you've done every single thing that you can, as long as you mean it. You've done every single thing that you can, and it's up to that person that you have victimized as to whether they accept that apology, whatever that action is. But if you've brought harm to someone, it is your responsibility. It's my responsibility to attempt that contact. That's really all I've got to say about that. I'll keep you guys updated on what's going on, and we'll do a show after whatever happens, and talk about that more at that point. My name is Brett Johnson. This is the Brett Johnson Show. As you guys know, I've got a couple of shows now. I've got Criminal Thoughts. That takes care of most of the crime talk. So if you guys don't mind, head on over to Criminal Thoughts with Brett Johnson. It's on all these platforms. Please subscribe. Leave me a comment about what you like, what you don't like about it. I typically read every single comment. I'll growl at some of the negative comments, but I'll also respond to most of them. Please take time to subscribe. The Brett Johnson Show is turning into this show that I like to call, chicken soup for the soul. This path that I'm learning how to become a better person, how to rehabilitate, how to turn my life around, how to become a productive, good human being. I think that to me, that is more important than any type of true crime bullshit that's going on. Not that I don't like that, I do. And I'm very knowledgeable on that. But I think that what's most important, at least in my life, is that turning things around. Knowing who I am, why I've done the things I've done, and doing good, not harm. Love thy neighbor. Of course, there was a guy that said that in a book a long time ago, and they nailed his ass to a tree. But still, love thy neighbor. That matters. And the Brett Johnson Show is absolutely morphing into that journey of becoming a better person. I don't know what else the show's going to do, but the last several episodes have been that. And I like that because to me, that's what's valuable. If you find that valuable as well, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe. Leave me a comment. If you want a guest on here, if you want some topic discussed, what have you, just leave me a note. I read every single comment, and the people who respond to this show and, the shorts that we put out and talk about how it's made a difference for their day or their life or their insight or whatever. Thank you. That is more valuable to me than anything on cybersecurity side of things. Thank you. My name is Brett Johnson. We're going to close things out. How do we do that? Same way every single time. Stay safe out there. Stay secure out there. And stay vigilant. It's when you let down your guard that a lot of the times people are victimized both online and in the physical world. So stay vigilant. At the end of the day, this is the Brett Johnson Show. The most important thing, just do the right damn thing. You do that, everything else falls into line. My name is Brett Johnson. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to tune in today. Until next time.